Welcome back. Now let's learn about 2-point perspective. Same tools as 1-point perspective, any kind of paper, a ruler, or any kind of straight edge will work, and a pencil. I will again be using an erasable pen so that you can see my lines a little better. So when we're talking about 1-point perspective, there was one vanishing point. When we talk about 2-point perspective, there's going to be 2 vanishing points. And typically they would be on opposite ends of your horizon line. So there's vanishing point 1, labeled VP, and vanishing point 2, labeled VP. There's my horizon line. Both vanishing points are on the horizon line. Now, if we're going to draw a box on the horizon line, we're going to start with a line. So unlike what we did with 1-point perspective when we started with a shape or a square, for 2-point perspective, we're going to start with a line. And then you're going to connect the ends of that line to the vanishing points. So I'm going to line my ruler up on vanishing point, and then the bottom, and then the top of that line I created. And then I'm going to do the same thing the opposite way. Vanishing point to the bottom of the line, vanishing point to the top of the line. After that, we have to make this look more like an opaque box. So we're going to draw 2 parallel lines to this line. And I'll start with one over here, making sure my ruler is parallel to that corner of my box. And your box can be any size you want. I can do a skinny box, a big box. I'm going to start, let's just do a little different shape here, a little skinnier box. So now I have these 2 lines parallel to this line. I would erase this line entirely if I were to be doing an actual drawing, so that you wouldn't see that horizon line through the box. And your orthogonal lines for practice, you'll just want to erase those to lighten them or to make them more like a dashed or dotted line. And that's how you do 2-point perspective on the horizon line. Now we're going to continue with 2-point perspective, but this time we're going to draw the box above and below the horizon line. So the same as we did with the 1-point perspective, we're just going to start with a line that would be the corner of our box, and we'll start with above the horizon line. I'll also do one below the horizon line over here. So exact same way, the top and bottom of that line connect to my vanishing point. So I'm going to line that ruler up, go to the bottom of the line, and then go to the top of the line. Then we'll do the same thing, going to the opposite vanishing point. Bottom of that line to one vanishing point, and then the bottom of the line to the other vanishing point. So to finish this off and make it look like a box, we have to do the same thing we did on the horizon line and draw 2 parallel lines parallel to that corner. So one parallel line there. Let's make this box a little bigger. And one parallel line there. And again, I'm just eyeballing those parallel lines. So that doesn't quite look like a box. It looks just like something projecting into the sky. The next step when you're doing 2-point perspective above or below the horizon line is to make it so that you can see the bottom or the top of that box that you're creating. And this gets to be the part where it gets a little confusing sometimes. I'm going to take this parallel line that I drew, and I'm going to take the bottom of that line and connect it to my vanishing point. And I'm going to draw that line. Then the bottom of the other line, I'm going to connect it to the vanishing point on the opposite side. So I'm going to line that up again and do that. And this is a box above the horizon line, and you can see that this looks like the bottom of the box. And you do the same thing if you're doing the box below the horizon line. So I'll do the same thing and connect all of my vanishing points. And then again, just like I did to get the bottom of this box, I need the top of the other box. So I'm going to connect the top of this line over to my other vanishing point. And then the top of this line to the vanishing point on the opposite side. And that is how you draw a box in 2-point perspective below the horizon line so that you can see the bottom of this box and the top of that box. Okay, now let's try one of our more unusual shapes using 2-point perspective. I've already drawn my horizon line, and if it's 2-point perspective, I need to include 2 vanishing points on opposite ends of my horizon line. We're going to make the letter E. So we'll do one line like that. That's going to be the corner of this block letter E. And then I'll connect the vanishing point to the bottom of that line and the vanishing point to the top of that line. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So this is almost just like if we were making one of those boxes. All right, so that's where we start. Now, if we want to make this a block letter E, we have to think about the thickness of the E and where we want the other part to go. So I'm going to put this here as being the end of my E, and then maybe here as being the thick part. And I'm going to do that. I'll try to do that lightly. Now, if I want to think about where do the parts of the E come in, I'm going to put this ruler on my vanishing point, and I'm going to think about how big do I want those ends of the E to be. So I'll do that for one of them, and then I'll try to mimic that same size for the other one. And the E starts off looking a little bit weird. So I'm going to go ahead and erase some of these lines that are making the E a little confusing to look at. Now we have to think about how we want this middle part of the E. So maybe I want it to start and end at those 2 little spots. So again, I'm going to connect my vanishing point to that dot that I made and draw that line. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side and draw that. Oops, kind of missed, but you get the idea. So I'm going to also erase this because this is adding a little bit of confusion to what I'm trying to create. So you can see how I'm starting to get that block letter E, but it still looks a little bit weird because I have to think about the back of the E. So this would be the back of the E there. And then again, I'm going to erase this to help you see what I'm creating. Now, if this were to be realistic looking, I would see the bottom of this and the top of this. So I'm going to connect that vanishing point to this point here on the E. So vanishing point to here. And I'm going to draw that line there. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. This edge to this vanishing point. And you can see how I created what looks like the bottom of this part of the E and the top of this part of the E. And again, if I go in here and erase out those lines that you wouldn't see, you can see how it then more realistically, I'll erase these lines and I'll erase this line, and I'll even just erase a little bit of this stuff so you can kind of see how I've built a block letter E using some perspective.